along with some opening prayers that we do. They're just on that sheet.
So have you studied any kind of Buddhism before or anything like that?
It was on my own, not going to any meeting, but on my own, yes.
Like
It's been a little over 3 years.
that you have been like on your own
On my own, yeah.
with
Meditate and reading a lot of sutta.
Oh, great.
Try to make sense of it.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, in that field, yeah. So I'm curious more. So since I see you guys saying the word
ACI
Dharma,
14
so it's the teaching.
class.
Yeah. Hopefully
So
it ends up being Dharma. This is our hope. A great hope that it ends up being Dharma.
Well, thank you for the tea.
I don't remember who it was that said this, but if whatever it is that we're doing or trying to learn is getting us closer to getting rid of mental afflictions, then you can call it Dharma. If it's not, like if whatever we're doing is not making you happier or more loving, then you can't really call it Dharma. So it's like, we could do these classes and then maybe there's some prayers that we do, and then you work hard at memorizing these prayers, and then you memorize the prayers, and then someone beside you hasn't got it memorized yet, or something in your heart you're like, I got mine memorized and she doesn't. Then it's not Dharma. It's like you just memorize these Dharma prayers, but you turn the Dharma into something else, right? So I always find that an interesting subject. What is Dharma and what isn't Dharma? When I first started studying Dharma, I noticed that it was spelled de-harm. To de-harm. De-harm yourself. Disarm yourself, de-harm yourself, de-harm. De-harm the world. And then there's, of course, at the end. It's like de-harm. Dharma. Okay, so let's get started. So we make this hand gesture when we do these prayers, which you don't have to do. You can simply, anything you want to do with your hands, or not with your hands. And the important thing is we're visualizing, making a mental offering for the teaching itself. Nishi, you want to lead us in the...
Sashibuki Jukshin Meito Tramri Rabling Shi Nyende Gen Padi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwa Gidro Kunam La Shingwa Chu Parsho Idam Guru Ratnamanda Kamyatayami Sange Chudam Soki Chokama Chanchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyengi Pe Sunamki Drola Pinchir Sange Drupasho Sange Chudam Soki Choknam La Chanchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyengi Pe Sunamki Drola Pinchir Sange Drupasho Sange Chudam Soki Choknam La Chanchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinyengi Pe Sunamki Lola Pinchir Sange Drupasho.
So let's keep our eyes closed and we'll do a little meditation to start with. So begin first by attending to the comfort of your body, making sure that however you're sitting, you're relaxed. Sitting in the most relaxed way that you can, and at the same time having a nice straight spine. Let's all take a deep in breath, and with that in breath, draw the crown towards the sky, elongating the spine, and then as we exhale, keeping that nice lift of the crown towards the sky as we relax the shoulders. That may automatically give you a sensation that your heart is lifting slightly. Very nice to think as you enter meditation to feel like you are going to enter into a heightened state of listening. Whether you're by yourself or listening to an audio or something. So you're refining your sense of attentiveness, even if it's going to be inward. Now let's take some time here to use the body, use the sensations of the body to help us let go of the past and let go of the future by focusing on the physical sensations of your body now. How does it feel for your body to connect to the earth? Place of connection between your body and the earth, even your hands touching your legs. Fine-tuning your focus so that you are strictly focusing on the feeling and doing your best to discard the mental overlay. When you notice a mental picture, wanting to label, this is my hands on my knees. This is my body resting on the floor. Try to let that go and simply be with the ever-changing feeling, physical sensation. Switching your focus now to the feeling of the rise and fall of your belly that moves with your breath, your natural breath, not controlling this breath, just noticing. if you notice any tension mount, simply inhale into the tension and let it go on the exhale. Relaxing the jaw. Giving yourself even less effort by making sure that your eyebrows are not furrowed, the smooth forehead. It's very relaxed. And now moving to a more subtle object, the breath that passes the tips of the nostrils. Beginning to focus now on the sensation of your breath. Or I should say the physical sensation as the breath passes the nostrils in and out. So keeping your mind focused on sensations of the nostrils as the breath passes these points. So now we'll do a little meditation that sets the tone in a sense for the class, or this. There'll be a section like this in the class that we do today. And in the spirit of Easter, in the spirit of the Christian tradition of contemplating what it was exactly that Jesus did at that time. And because we've been talking a lot about this Lojong practice where you're learning to drop the powerful habit that we so often have of thinking of ourselves before anyone else, this self-cherishing attitude that has created so much trouble for us for many lifetimes. And so we're going to go through a death contemplation. And as part of one of the Lojong verses, and part of the practice is getting ready to have a death like this. Or sending your mind into death in a certain fashion. So visualize yourself however you want to visualize yourself, as if you were at the point of death. Maybe you visualize yourself much older, but maybe you'd like to visualize yourself not that much older to reconfirm that we don't really know, and that because we have a physical body, then the physical body must fall, and that we're not in control of when it happens. And because of that, then we use that as a motivation to practice, so that at the moment of death, our practice carries with us to the next place. So however you see yourself, I'm about to die. I will go into death itself, into the state between, into the bardo and beyond. But I will not lose my wish to help other people as I go through. I will not lose my intention to become an enlightened being to help other people. And think about how much you would have to be like that in your life in order to get so accustomed to thinking like that, that even at the moment of your death, you'd be thinking, okay, even now, I'm thinking about other people. And so think, wow, I've been practicing so much that I'm actually ready for this moment. It's just natural for me to think about other people as I'm dying. And then how do we plant the right or white karma, you'd say, or virtuous karma as we're dying? In your mind, give away everything that you own. If we die with any kind of attachment to what we're used to, or attachment to what we own, or what we used to be, especially to our body, it can have horrible results as we pass through into death. So when the moment comes, we turn on this power of virtue by giving away in your mind all your possessions. Everything I used to own, let all sentient beings use it. I hope they use my bank account. God bless whoever lives in my house. I hope the worms like my body. It was useful, but I now no longer need it. And even your good thoughts, offer them away to the holy beings. I offer all the good things I ever did in my life to the lamas, to the Buddhas, to the bodhisattvas of the universe. I'm offering everything away in this moment. And then you destroy negative imprints by reviewing your life and thinking about some of the things maybe that you couldn't tell anybody that you did. That was a mistake. Review them and examine them. Remove them. Confess them to someone that you see, a holy being in front of you. Confess them so they're given away, so you're clean. And most importantly, believe that they're removed. And then one final thing, in the tradition of what Jesus did, as you die, you do a special Tonglen practice. you think to yourself, well, I'm about to die. It's going to hurt. And I pray that all the bad deeds, all the mental and physical suffering of the entire world should come into me and die with me. I dedicate my death to destroying the suffering of other people. And then visualize like Jesus did. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. You can even envision sucking in on an inhale all the horrible suffering, and especially the mental attitudes and delusions that make people suffer, that are the cause of suffering. You suck them all into you and see them destroyed by the love in your heart, by the wisdom in your heart. And then you die at peace. And you think, even in the moment of my death was a benefit for many beings. And then consider, what would I have to do in this life to be able to have that little attachment to my body and to my things I own, and be so ready, even at the moment, the most pressing moment of my life, be able to actually turn my mind towards others. How could I train myself for that moment now? What would I have to do each day? And then gently come back to the room. And say hi to Carol who came in. Hi, Carol.
Did you want the screen?
Are you comfortable enough now? There's lots of cushions around and stuff if you want to even...
Lots of what around, sorry?
There's lots of cushions around or anything if you want to use them. Like if
A chair, you mean?
Okay, you can use a chair or anything that you like.
I'm comfortable.
Okay, good. So, yeah, that's the sort of death that a holy being goes through. So they say. And if there's even any chance of all that they said that Jesus did, I mean, even if it's only half true, it's ridiculous to contemplate it. That he apparently willingly did it. He apparently willingly let himself get taken and made this sacrifice. And so this is, I don't know if you've noticed, but this whole ACI 14, this whole class is just over and over and over again going, it's basically saying the same thing over and over and over again. It's trying to get us in different ways, to come at different angles, to try and do the same thing. How is it that I'm going to destroy my worst enemy, which is the thing inside of me that always thinks of me first? And we're halfway through the 7-point instruction on how to develop a good heart. And we took 2 classes to get through just the first 3, because they're so powerful and important. So we're on number 4. The 4th part of the 7-step practice for developing the good heart. It's interesting that they don't say developing a good heart. They say the good heart. The good heart, right? The heart of the teacher, the heart of the Buddha, the heart of compassion. I was reading a book recently about an amazing Tibetan Lama called Shapkar, and he, they figured out that he was already enlightened when he arrived. But then, these tulkus, they do this thing where they demonstrate that they still have to learn or something, that they've forgotten things, and they go through their lives and they relearn it. But then they're doing all these amazing things and doing deep practices, and he did retreat after retreat in the caves of Tibet, years and years and years of retreat. He'd go into retreat, and then he'd come out and he'd serve like mad, or he'd make offerings, or he'd repair stupas and all the offerings that were given to him, right? Butter lamps made of gold coins. He would melt them down. He'd go and melt them down, and he'd use that gold, and he would just refurbish a stupa. He had no attachment to anything like that. And it's interesting, at the very end of the book, which was only about 3/4 of the way into his life, I noticed the only thing that he ever really kept were scriptures. And he was offered many, many scriptures, and then he would give a lot of them out. But that's the one thing that he would get his disciples to make sure went with him sometimes, was just the scriptures. But he had many disciples. And I remember one of the passages, and he describes, he's up in a cave, and one of his spiritual sons comes up to him and says, "Oh, Lama Shapkar, I've done all you said. I did this. My mind is blended with ultimate reality. My mind is blended. I've seen ultimate reality." And Shapkar says, "That's great, my son. I figured you'd come and say that. But I don't think your compassion is anywhere near your father's." And he's talking about himself. And he goes, "It's great that you saw things directly. That's wonderful. But now you must go and work and do non-stop work on your compassion. You must build your compassion." And these are the kinds of things that you get to see too when you're in a deep retreat, and you're studying a lot on wisdom, and you're meditating a lot on thinking a lot about the nature of reality, and you're settling your mind, and you can see kind of where your compassion's at. And a Buddha has a holy compassion, great compassion, I'll call her my stepdaughter. She's not really my official stepdaughter, but I was with her mom for many years, and I moved in with that family when she was just a little girl, and I've known her for a long time. She recently had a baby, Mandy. She had a baby, and she had a really, really intense and horrible birthing process. She had it at home with midwives and the whole pool thing in the room, and apparently they screwed that up, and the water wasn't warm enough, so she had to do it on a living room rug. And labor started at a certain point, and she began to scream, "I'm dying," to her mom, who was there. "No, I really am dying. You don't understand. Like, I am actually dying. And take me to the hospital. I want the epidural. I'm having tailbone pain. It's all happening. I'm not going to survive this." But somehow, I don't know how they managed to stay there. They didn't go to the hospital. She had the baby, and there was blood and pain and vomit and everything else. And it's amazing to me, she tells a story and she's laughing as she tells it, of course, because moms, I guess, I don't know, I don't remember, but moms have that ability to have this thing happen, and then in the next instant, just it's all love for this child. And she sat there, and I've never heard her say anything like this as long as I've known her. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. She's a yoga teacher, and she cares a lot about people. But she said, I stare at this boy, and his name is Nova. I stare at him, and I can just feel it. I can feel that this thing in my heart happening. It's like breaking open. And I'm just so in love with this person. I'm so in love with this baby. And that's all that, and that was her everything, right? And I was sitting there, and I could feel it, her love towards this child. Well, imagine the compassion of a Buddha, right? Having that kind of love for every single person, every single ant, every single spider, right? Every single villain, every single saint. And I think even beyond that, because their mind is in such a place. So, what is in the way of that? What is in the way of us being able to do that? Because, and I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for anybody else in this room. It's very, very likely that you're all in that place, and you're just entertaining me by allowing me to talk about it. But it can't be that. I mean, could it be? Could it be that we don't have that inside of us somewhere, and that somehow we have to become that? Like, if that's our natural state, if being that way is more how a natural interchange would be between you and another being, like, why? Like, why is it? How is it? Why is it that we've become so accustomed to a certain kind of interchange between you, us, and another being that many of us don't even think twice about stepping on an ant? Like, why? How is it that we can walk down the street and feel drawn to some and repelled by others? What's wrong? Why is it that we can only love our only child just like that? Well, according to the Lojong text, it's our self-cherishing. There's something about us that is hardwired to think of ourselves first in almost every situation. And when you see emptiness directly, you have this ultimate experience. You're in deep meditation, and your mind enters the divine. You disappear from yourself. And when you come back, you're changed. And even in that moment, sure, you understand. You look back and you see how you've been selfish for all of your existence. And then in and around that time, you have that experience of your heart chakra cracking open as a result of the virtue of so much prana entering your central channel that it bursts the heart chakra. And in that moment, for a brief period of time, you have that kind of love. You have the love of a Buddha. You have a glimpse of that. And in that moment, you bow down and you're like, and you see the cause of what makes people suffer. In your mind, you're thinking, well, just let go of the coal that you're holding. You're Master Shantideva, right? It's like holding onto a burning coal, and you just need to let it go. It's the self-cherishing. And you see it in your mind. It's all the believing that things have self-existent existence, believing that an object has power to give you happiness or has power to annoy you from its own side. And you see billions of beings holding on. And your mission at that point, when you see that, is I will teach them how and why they should drop that coal, because that's all they have to do. Because once you drop that coal of ignorant self-cherishing, you're home free. You can then enter into paradise. But everyone's screaming in pain from the pain of holding the coal, but they don't know how to let it go. So in that brief moment, you have that kind of love, and then because of, you haven't purified all your negative karmas yet, kind of your prana begins to settle back down to what it's mainly was, but it can't never be the same after you had that experience. Life reasserts itself, and that will always be a memory, and that will always pull you, and it's like this is what it will be like to walk around. This is a holy being walks around like that, with this insane devotion and love to every single being. So, how do we do that? Well, we just practice daily, day by day by day. And this is what we're talking about today. Because the fourth part is summary of an entire lifetime's practice. So right now, we're about to get, I think there are 5 points, 5 powers. 5 points on this is what you do each day if you want to attack that and defeat that self-cherishing. They're called the 5 powers, and I think this may be one of the most profound things that I ever heard in these courses were these 5 powers, because it made sense to me in a way that they seemed like if I really wanted to, I could do it. So here's the first one. It's called resolution for the future. You comfortable? Okay. Resolution for the future. So the future can be the rest of your life. It can be the rest of this hour. It can be the rest of this day. But mainly what this refers to is in the morning. As you're laying in bed, you wake up, and before you get up, you're beginning to already think, okay, I got another day. I got another day. Looks like I got another day anyway. I've got another day, and I'm not going to waste it. Today, I will try to overcome the mistake of looking out for number 1. And a good way to check in on your progress, well, that's debatable, because there's a time gap. But you could say that if you see yourself unhappy at times with a body that gets sick and a body that causes you trouble, then you're living proof of self-cherishing. It's the result. It's the result of self-cherishing. And this is the beauty of this kind of course, because by now you would have had to have bought karma and emptiness. You would have had to have bought that, according to what Shakyamuni Buddha said, good leads to good, bad leads to bad. Karma grows. You can't get a karmic result if you don't plant it, and if you do plant the karmic result, you will receive if you do plant a karma, you will receive the result. And then there's the time gap. It's so profound. Just those things plus the time gap. If you how many times in your life, in your day, could you have just stopped and just thought about those things and would have just solved the whole mental problem? Oh, I'm so upset because so and so canceled their appointment with me. now I'm in a bad mood. In fact, I might be in a bad mood for the rest of the day now, and it's her fault. Maybe you've been studying this for like 2 years and you're still having that kind of problem, right? And this is the beauty about debate, because you can just go backwards and just think, okay, what did the Buddha said? Good leads to good, bad leads to bad. Okay, how could this have happened? There's a time gap. When can karma ripen? This lifetime, next lifetime, or any lifetime after that. So everything that you're experiencing right now is a total result. All the good things and all the negative things. And all the amazing things that just blow your mind, those are born of things that are probably not a lot like self-cherishing. And so if you convince yourself of that, then you're more motivated to really go after it. You're more motivated to, okay, how am I going to catch this mind that always just wants me first, So you're thinking about those kinds of things as you're laying in bed. Okay, today I'm really going to be watchful and I'm going to go after that. Today is going to count. Because any day you spend in your life where you make any kind of progress against that, it counts big time for your enlightenment. And if you can start thinking of people with kind thoughts, kind wishes, and thinking of what they want before everything that you want, your body will start to change. Your mind will start to change. The prana will start traveling through different channels. Your heart will open. Because, this is kind of like a tantric teaching, but if the pranic knots around our heart, or the constriction that's forcing the body to be the way it is, that's all from me. Self-cherishing, resistance, me first. It just tightens the knot around the heart, and then that creates this pranic momentum that then creates a body that hurts. So you get a clear understanding as you're laying there in the morning going, the only thing between me and my enlightened paradise is my self-cherishing. And you just make this resolution. So that's resolution for the future. That's your first thing you do in the morning. Pretty simple. That's the first power. The second power is called accustoming yourself. So that means, how do you do that all day long? How are you going to remind yourself all day long to do that? What they say is you check in with yourself every time you change position. And that doesn't mean every time you move your arm. It means, okay, every time you change position in all the ways you change position in the day. Standing, sitting, walking, lying down. So every transition you make during the day. So for most of us, maybe it would be, okay, you're lying in bed, you're thinking, and then, okay, now I'm going to try and keep my mind on this as I get up and go to work. And then you're kind of like, okay, and you have this project from here till I get to work. And then maybe you sit down at work. Okay, I'm sitting down now. Now this is a new time frame. It's almost like the very, very kind teaching on what is one meditation session? One cycle of the breath. You can think of it like that. You can think of your day as one cycle of the breath. So you're keeping your motivation on defeating your enemy, which is your own self-cherishing, one cycle of breath at a time, one cycle of your life at a time. And if you do that enough, eventually it will become habitual, so that automatically, okay, oh, work's over. Oh yeah, right, I'm supposed to think of something now. Oh yeah, what is it? Oh yeah, right. Okay, on the way home now. And maybe what that means is on your way home, you'll notice if what your mind is doing, how your mind is viewing other people. If you're driving and someone is driving, like for instance, maybe they're tailgating you and they're like really up behind your bumper, what's your mind doing about that? Or you get on the bus and you're tired and you've had a hard day and there's only, one seat left. The last thing you're going to want to do is take that seat. Even if it appears like you deserve it more than somebody else, right? Oh, then for sure, yeah, I deserve the chair. I deserve the chair. I'm tired. I worked all day. I can, no. Make sure someone else gets the chair. Because where does getting to relax in a chair come from anyway? So that eventually, every time you change position like that, it sets off these thoughts. It sets off this motivation. It's a trick. It's a Ganapa trick. So you can get used to it. Number 3 is called pure white seeds. What do you think that means? So far we've got sitting down thinking about, okay, what am I going to do all day? Okay, I'm going to stop self-cherishing. Okay, next thing, every time I change position, I'm going to reinstate that thought. What does pure white seeds mean, do you think?
Maybe choosing to plant the good virtues deep at the moment where you caught your mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're definitely in the right direction. Definitely in the right direction. It's like, how do I plant the best karma, basically? And this refers to 2 practices, but mainly it's, I shouldn't say mainly, probably equally, but what karma is the highest karma? Sometimes you have to choose between what you should do. What's going to give you the most bang for your buck? What's going to help the most people? What's going to be the most amount of good for the most amount of people? And always, always, anything that is going to move you towards becoming a Buddha is always going to be the most amount of good for the most amount of people. Why? Why? If you have a choice to make between doing 2 Ds, whichever one in your mind is the one that's going to move you towards becoming a totally enlightened being is always going to be the one that is the most amount of good for the most amount of people. Why? Yeah. You become omniscient and you become able to help. You'd be able to help countless beings. If you're totally enlightened, then you've made the other side. You can teach people, right? That's the most precious quality of the Buddha, of any holy being, that they teach, that they can speak and free you with their words. And if you can speak and free people with your words, then you are the most amount of people for the most amount of, then you are the most amount of help for the most amount of people. So, what is more powerful virtue than other virtues? Usually, there's a pretty standard list in a way, and it's, if you have a lama, serving your lama, that's way up there. That's very, very, very potent virtue, to serve a lama. So you're lucky if you have a lama that you can serve, and which means helping them do what they do, which means helping them teach the Dharma. That's what that means. So the highest karma that you can get, the highest bang for your buck, is helping to facilitate the Dharma, helping to facilitate Dharma getting out in the world, right? So, Mishi and I are in a very good karmic situation in this house, right? It's a very, very potent karmic situation to have a house that we're opening up so that people can come and get the Dharma. And right now, in this moment, I'm doubly blessed. So thanks to you all, I have the double blessing of saying words that I believe will help people. That my wish, my wish is that anyone that hears these words would learn and put into practice things that would set them totally free. The karma of that is really strong. And not only that, but I'll work all day at it. I'll work all day at preparing the class, and I'll offer my house too. I don't know how much, I don't know, I can't think of any higher karma than that. So I'm very, very lucky in that situation. Very, very lucky. And maybe someone will volunteer the house for ACI 13. Yeah, we're going to start taking volunteers for that pretty soon. Because it'd be fun to spread it around, I think. But anyway, so the big three, okay? Serving a lama or facilitating some way that the Dharma gets spread. Number 2, what else? What else is major virtue? Studying emptiness. Number 3, married to emptiness. Yeah, but not that one. The other one. The other wing of the bird. Compassion. Studying compassion. Doing Tonlen meditation. Doing what we did before we started class. Thinking about, oh my God, may I take on the suffering of other beings. May I be the thing that frees them. So most of these things are worked, in private, in your mind. Most of them, like Tonlen, that's a private thing. And your motivation for doing it, that's the most important thing. So the second part of number 3, the second part of pure white deeds is what? What has to be the second part? If we're planting virtue, what do we always do along with that? Dedicate, yes. But there's another one. We always dedicate. We also rejoice, yes. It's like the mirror to white deeds. The opposite of white deeds.
Destroy bad
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah, so along with white deeds, we also do our work of purifying the old karma. So some of you know the 4 forces. But basically, it's the art of keeping your vows. It's the art of keeping your freedom vows. In a nutshell, number 3 is your book. Number 3 is keeping your book and doing powerful good karma all day long as best you can. Making sure that you're not harming others all day. And then the 4th one's called destruction. And this doesn't mean like destruction forces in the 4 forces. It's like to rip something out, like rip the heart out, rip something out from the heart. So that means as soon as that little voice that comes in, oh, I want, then you smash it. So that takes a lot of mindfulness because it sneaks up really fast. And sometimes you can't stop it, and sometimes we act on it. But people aren't paying attention to me. I'm not getting what I want. People are getting all the food that they want, but I'm not getting what I want. Looking at the nacho bowl at the party, making sure that there's still some left for you, as it slowly goes down. What about me? When am I going to get my nachos? Years ago. I had a gig at the town pump, and this is when I was doing my own songs, and there was a guy in the bar, and I knew him from work, and his name was John also, and he was getting really drunk, and he was this Australian guy, and he was doing this thing. He was having a drink which he called snake eyes, which is like he was pouring vodka into his beer, and he was drinking and drinking and drinking it. And he's this young guy. I mean, I was about 27, and he was about the same age. And then, right out of nowhere, in between songs, he just yells out, "Someone pay attention to me!" And everybody just kind of got quiet and looked over at him. And he just said, and he said it again, "Pay attention to me!" Right? And everybody, the jukebox comes to a stop, and it's like awkward. And I think that some people did go over and kindly sit by him. But of course, he was so drunk that he wasn't that pleasant to sit with anyways. He was really loud. But, he just had, the screen went down for a second. He was just doing what everybody else was doing in there. Right? I mean, I can't say that ultimately. But what was I doing? Right? Hope you guys like me. Hope you like my songs. Hope I get some compliments after I'm done. What the hell? I wasn't doing anything different than him. He just happened to say it out loud. Oh yes, I'm going to the town pump tonight. What should I wear? Hope someone notices me tonight. Hope I get what I want tonight. Oh gee, want to share a cab? Should I give a tip? No, I don't want to give a tip. No, I shouldn't tip. There's no need to tip. They make lots of money. Okay, I'm going to go into the Runaway Club. All right, let's go in here. Okay, great. I hope the music's good tonight. Hope the band's good tonight. Hope I feel good tonight. Wow, 2-for-1 drinks tonight? Awesome! I don't have to tip the waitress. They're getting lots of money. No, everyone's tipping her. I don't need to tip her. Maybe someone in the band will notice me. Maybe I can go backstage and someone in the band will notice me. I'll get noticed. I mean, he just said out loud what everybody was doing in there. We're like, this. So maybe that was the most poignant thing about what he did. And maybe that was why people went over to him and went, yeah, buddy, we know exactly what you're talking about. And some of you heard this story. I always remember this like a nightmare. when I was a kid, and I was. I remember my dad was in the Air Force, and it was a snowy town, and we didn't have much money, but I had friends with money, and one of the friends' dads had a snowmobile, and he was giving rides on the snowmobile, and I remember in my snowsuit standing there, and the dad comes back in the snowmobile, and he gets off the snowmobile and gets out, and me and my friend are standing there, and he says, "Okay, you come next," to my friend, and I just like it came out of me, like I want to go next, but it really came out of me, and I was I don't know I was I guess present enough as a child to be horrified, but I also was also aware. I was somehow at that age aware and confused because I couldn't stop it from happening. I felt it coming up and out and come out of my mouth, and as the guy, the dad, looked at me with that look that you would look at a kid when a kid did that, right? And I knew that I was supposed to get that look. I knew it was appropriate for me to be glared at, and I also couldn't convey to him, like, yeah, I know that was stupid, and I knew it was, and so then it was the double thing of also feeling, like knowing that I was being selfish and inappropriate and unthankful and ungrateful, but also knowing that I was being like that and that it was this really weird moment, and I've never forgotten it as long as I live. So hopefully, if you're lucky, it can be that strong for you. Hopefully, you can feel it coming and just squash it. Just go, no, down dog, right? No, you will not rule my life. Oh, voice in my head that wants to say, what about me? What about me first? I want. So you have to get sensitive to that. If you're going to be a great Lojong practitioner, you have to be really, really aware. So we'll do one more for take a break. Number 5. This is called prayer. The prayer section. This is the end of the day. So what do you think we're going to do at the end of the day as we lay down? To make it a complete practice, to make the day one complete, perfect little Buddhist day in the life of Tarnjit.
Assess whether you stuck to
Yeah.
what you woke up with.
And then do how are you gonna stamp that? How are you gonna seal that?
So if I didn't, then have it to do. Okay, tomorrow I'm gonna do this.
Dedicate. Yeah. So you dedicate that, right? So you're like, okay, today was a pretty good day, right? I caught myself 3 times. I caught myself 3 times worrying about what I wanted versus what someone else wanted. That was a pretty cool day, I caught myself wanting to, I stopped it. And so you dedicate that, we take it for granted. It's we don't realize the power of that. The power of, that's like reversing. If all suffering has been from trying to get just for yourself alone, and you caught yourself 3 times in the day, in a very powerful way, stopping that tendency, then 3 times that day, you stopped the creation of samsara. You stopped the creation of the cycle of pain. And you put some power into creating paradise. You put some power into creating a body that doesn't suffer and a mind that doesn't suffer. So it's worth dedicating. It's worth dedicating about. It's worth rejoicing about. So that's one part. You dedicate anything that you did, any lojong that you did. And then you make a prayer that I dedicate that, and by that, the truth of what I've just done, may I get the wish for enlightenment. May that ignite in me the wish to become totally enlightened for the sake of every living being. And may I see emptiness directly. I dedicate all my efforts today to stop my own habit of watching out for number one all the time to those two goals, igniting my bodhicitta, igniting my wish for enlightenment, and so that I may see emptiness directly. And he says that's an entire life practice right there. Those 5 things. If you could do that, those 5 things every day, you have a whole life practice right there. And you do it on the inside, and you don't brag about it. You don't try to be noticed by it. You know, you'll appear to be getting happier, your body will change, you'll start looking younger, or at the very least, you'll start aging very slowly, and nobody, will know what's going on. Nobody will be quite sure what it is that you're up to. So let's take a break at this point. Yes, time for a break. Good. Did someone make cookies? No.
I bought a dinosaur Easter egg.
You bought a dinosaur Easter egg? A pterodactyl egg? Mm. Wow. It is a pterodactyl egg.
I really like it. And it's organic.
Organic pterodactyl egg. Mm. Mm. Cookie?
Thank you so much.
Mm. Good.
Just kidding. I don't know how I'm gonna do it.
This is very interesting.
It looks so
Not something you see every day.
I almost don't want to eat it,
You live close by? Quite good.
I know. It's supposed to be good. not as glamorous anymore. No, take more. Okay. Okay.
It's really cool.
Oh, good.
And it's only the
Yeah, a lot. Every Tuesday night. And I think for starting next Monday, 4 more Mondays. So, and then, but the Tuesdays will continue, the Mondays will stop. And, Monday is very, it's like the first class. Yeah, that's what we said. Yeah. Yeah. It's in the binder from the course. I want to take it home. Yeah. Yeah, in the beginning of class, you were doing this. You were saying, you were trying to say all these things. You were saying that. And then, the second thing you did 3 times. This is this 3 times. Yeah. And at the end of class, we would do this little.
Yeah.
Say this once at the end of class, and then you also. Meditate. Say this at the end of class. Oh yeah.
So this meditation, the one before
Yeah.
tonight. So focusing on taking 2 voices
Yeah.
So what I did, and I kind of did. No.
You do that, girl.
Look at my right
Silly girl.
Okay.
Yes.
What other options? Before this, I did other ones where I just thinking.
Well, the options are limited.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be like this, right?
No. This is just one way to do it. And the reason why they present this is simply because those 3 things are the cause of it. So you like go right to the root. But I have fun with it, right? Take away their bills, give them abundance. You know? What's that? Well, you can take away their.
I mean,
Can you, right? But what I mean is, I'm saying, all I'm saying is, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. You don't have to. But those are very powerful because you're going with the causes in your mind. And that will be the karma that will get rid of the causes of suffering in your mind. And give you the causes for the opposite. You know, because it just may happen that you have a friend that you know of that's suffering with a certain kind of ailment. That you could say, okay, I visualize taking the cancer away from me. But you've also then, I'm also going to take away the
response is
Would you like to see now?
which would those demons that would cause you. So then you'd be going after the three poisons. What they need to cause for them would be three poisons. The three poisons are at the root of all negative things. So anyway.
Yeah, I get it. So how do you do the bills though? How do you believe you can take away the bills, you know?
Well, you just have fun with it because you realize that that's a kind thought. And that kind thought, wishing someone else prosperity, wishing someone else to suffer from bills, and having prosperity will be nicely as a reminder. You just have fun with it.
Self-love and self-church.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay, good.
Because
Because
that's a good answer to the class.
because I find that many people, and including me, we have to go through self-love process to be able to get like,
You have
it's
to
not
yourself.
there.
Some church needs different.
I sometimes can't.
Yeah. Church. Set up. Be positive. Do something. The church needs a house.
It's very cool place.
Church needs a car. Doesn't have to be bad. Doesn't have to be bad. But we'll talk about it. Because
Okay,
it does get there.
I can stay until.
Oh, were you? Oh, good. Well, I'm glad. I paused them.
Thank you.
All back on.
So there are two more lines added to this section. In the great way, these same five are the advices for sending your mind. Cherish the act. Because the actual Lojong text says, the brief essentials of the instruction are combined within the five powers. So we just did those five powers. Then it says, in the great way, these same five are the advices for sending your mind. Cherish the act. Anybody want to try a crack at what does sending the mind mean? In the great way, these same five are the advices for sending your mind. Cherish the act. You need a commentary on these, John. You understand?
The meditation we did at the beginning.
Yeah, Poa. So Poa is like you send, at the moment of death, you send your consciousness in a certain direction. So in the great way, of course, that's going to mean the Mahayana path, the path of the Bodhisattvas. What separates the Mahayana path from the Hinayana path?
Scope of the refuge.
Scope of refuge?
Yeah, like what they're taking refuge in, what they want and what they want to get away from. The difference between those two.
Okay. Are you talking about the scopes, or are they talking about the yanas?
Well, the yanas are determined by the different refuges, right?
Okay. So then, what's the difference between Mahayana and Hinayana? What is the difference?
Well, Mahayana wants to get enlightened for the sake of all beings, and Hinayana wants to just either. So that's confusing. Are you talking about the two lowers? Like, is it the medium scope as well?
Well, I didn't say scope.
So you said yanas.
Yeah.
So then I don't know. What is Hinayana? Does that encompass both lower and medium scope?
Yeah. So the Mahayana has a certain motivation, and the Hinayana has a certain motivation, and that's really it. That's the only thing that separates those two, right? So what's the so you think about the two lower scopes? What's their motivation? For myself alone, right? And that's it. So, and then the Mahayana is for the sake of all living beings. May I do this? So in the great way means if we're talking in Poa, if we're talking sending of consciousness according to Mahayana, according to the great way, here's the instruction for Poa, for sending your consciousness. And we've talked about this kind of thing like a lot in this sense. It's not like if you don't practice your whole life, that at the moment of death, the scariest moment of your lifetime, you're going to somehow be able to keep your mind calm and do these kinds of 5 powers at the moment of death, unless you've been accustoming yourself every day, because if you believe that you could pull it off at the moment of death without practicing hard lojong your whole life, then I guess you believe that you could become a concert pianist in 5 minutes. I guess that's what you believe then. Because you're saying the same thing. Because this is like a crazy time. Your whole world is collapsing. You're going through these crazy hallucinations. You're going through mental anguish and pain as you lose everything. How are you gonna actually remain calm if you don't have a default response? If you haven't built up this default mind. So the POA that we're going to be talking about right now is just taking the 5 powers that we just talked about and converting them as a proper way to die practice. So this is the awesomeness of this practice. It's so great. You're getting ready to die. You're getting ready to do a perfect death. Your whole life. Every day. Every minute. Every second. Every microsecond. Send your mind means deliver your mind to death with these 5 instructions. So each one of these 5 now takes on a new kind of a meaning, right? It's very cool. So the first one was resolution for the future, right? So now your resolution for the future is I'm resolving that in my death I will be, as I go into death myself. So this will be review for you now because we did it in the meditation, right? We did it in the meditation, which is why in the meditation I thought to ask you what would you have to do your whole life in order to have a mind that could pull this off as your universe collapsed? I'm about to die. I will go into death itself. I will go into the bardo. I will go into the state beyond. And I will not lose my wish to help others. Some of you have heard this story about when me and my friend Reggie decided that, well, I guess it was me that decided it, that we would try and get high by inhaling Pam, the aerosol. You haven't heard this story, lady? Okay, well, I guess I was about 16 or 17, around that, when you're really dumb. I shouldn't say that. When you do foolish things, desperate for, I don't know, pushing the envelope. I don't know what I was thinking, but there was this rumor going around that, if you had Pam, that everyone know what Pam is? You spray to make your, Pam is a spray that's like, you spray it on your frying pan and things don't stick. Okay, so it's an aerosol. And everyone at school's talking about, you could spray Pam into a paper bag and inhale it and get high. So it happened to be a night when, and me and Reggie, we weren't like party animals, but we happened to be at home, and the parents weren't at home, and I had this idea, let's try this Pam thing out. And do you have a paper bag? He said, no, but I got a plastic bag. So he found like it was a big bag, and so I said, okay, I'll go first. And I just filled this bag. And then, with no hesitation, no anxiety, quite possibly no intelligence, I stuck this thing in my mouth, over my mouth and nose, and just went, and took a great big inhale, okay? And then very, very shortly after that, everything went completely black. And I saw like bubbles. I felt like I'd become like a molecule, okay? But I had just enough consciousness to be concerned about Reggie. Because in my mind, I was like, Reggie's going to do this next. And I realized that I had done something really stupid. And that's like the Buddhist definition of intelligent regret. That was a real intelligent regret. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt like I had just done something that was going to harm me and quite possibly kill me. And I thought I might be dying. So I remember like going black, and I remember kind of going sideways and falling over, and I was thinking about Reggie. And as I went down, I said, "Don't do it." And then I was out. And Reggie was there freaking out because I was doing the chicken. My body was like doing this thing. And I often think that maybe that's what saved me. Was as I was going out, I wasn't concerned for myself. I was only concerned for Reggie. And maybe that is what saved my life in that moment. Because I really took a lot in. I really wanted this thing to work, right? And I've since then researched it, and people have died doing that. Many people have died doing that. So, I'm probably not, I probably lost some smarts, so I'm sorry. I'd be a better teacher if I hadn't done that, probably. Anyway, right? So it's like that. How at the moment of your death can you be thinking of other people instead of yourself? So that's your resolution, even as I die, And we're lucky, you could say, in this time, in this era, that in quite a few occasions people know they're going to die. Quite a few occasions they're like, okay, I've got 3 months. In the case of my mom, she had like 2 weeks when she, it was like, okay, 2 weeks. That's it. What are you going to do? You have 2 weeks. So then you can start getting ready. If you haven't been doing it your whole life, you can start working hard for 2 weeks, it's so funny. We all came to see her, and she was like in bad shape. And me and Christine and Tracy showed up, and the first thing she said to us is, "You guys need any money?" And we're like, "No, Mom, we don't need any money." And she said, mark my words, "Okay, I'll pay my car insurance."
Oh.
She's like dying, Okay, this is the kind of person she was. So then, second, because that was resolution for the future. Second, accustoming yourself. Accustoming yourself. So this would be like, my mom had that result. Okay, my mom had accustomed herself to thinking about others so much that at the moment of death, it was natural for her to see if we needed anything first. So it has to be part of your nature before the death process begins, because it can happen very fast. So as like I said, you're getting ready to die now, because it's it's going to happen. And then the third one, pure white seeds. So this is cool. We did that meditation, right? What are the pure white seeds? In your mind, you're giving everything away. You're cutting your attachment to stuff as you go. So in your mind, you're like giving away your house, you're giving away your money, you're giving away your body, right? We put so much into our body. We take care of our body, and we must, but it's hard to think of losing it. We're very attached to it. We're attached to how it looks. We're attached to how it feels. And then we're about to lose it. The best thing we could do is, please, worms, enjoy it. Unless you're not, maybe you're going to cremate yourself, but, however you would think, maybe you're going to get your friends to like throw the dust into the prairies. May my dust fertilize the corn. Whatever you would think of, but something that would take away your attachment to your body. And also not just stuff like your body, but your virtue, like the virtue that you've gained. I offer my virtue to the holy beings. I offer them to the lamas, to the holy beings, to the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, right? So it's like you're giving away your merit. It's like we do at the end of every one of these classes, right? By the goodness of what I have just done, we say in Tibetan though, by the goodness of what I have just done, may every living being, complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. In other words, by what you're giving away your karma. Yes.
Why would you give your virtue to Buddhas and holy beings? Why not to just people who?
Because they're high objects. Because it's you're placing your mind. It's like it's kind of a paradox, right? Because it's not like they need your, right? In the same way that in the same way that serving your lama, like the lama doesn't need money or presents, right? But it's for the good of your mind to offer something to an object that we think is holy. And that's a different karma. So that's why right? Yeah, you definitely want to be thinking of holy beings as you pass in some way. And then the fourth one was destruction. And that was that thing I talked about when we did the death meditation there about, hopefully there's someone around that you can confide in, or your teacher or somebody, you say, listen, I did these things, like I did these 3 things in my life I can't live with, and I wish I didn't do them, but no one knows. Right? No one knows about these things, and I'm saying them to you. That's the beauty of the Catholic tradition, right? The confession. That's a very, very beautiful thing that they do. They have a priest by your bed as you're dying, and it's good to go clean, to feel like your mind is clean. The most important thing about that process is believing they're removed, believing that they're removed. So here's something else which is interesting, which maybe you wouldn't normally think of, but if you have a tantric lama, and if you had a tantric initiation, then what you would do is you would ask a qualified tantric lama to give you another initiation, like reinitiate me into the tantra, whatever tantra that you've been initiated into. In other words, give me a whole fresh new set of vows as I enter the bardo, right? Give me a whole fresh new set of bodhisattva vows as I enter the bardo, as I go to the next place. So they say that is also very, very good to do. And then the fifth one is the prayer, which was the Tonglen we did. You pray that your death, that along with your death, all suffering would die. It was so very, very cool because we were singing in church, and on Easter Sunday we went and had a really, really strong worship session. The band was just amazing that day, and very, very worshipful and prayerful singing. And the minister, he was up there and he gave this. It was amazing. And Sherry was beside me. She goes there with me, and we were looking at each other like. He gave this whole Tonglen teaching. He just said, it goes, because he said, and there was Jesus. And he stood up there on the pulpit with his arms open like this. He goes, there he was with his arms and his heart open to the whole world. And he was just there, and he just said, give it all to me. All of it. I want all of it. I want all of it. I want all the suffering. I want it all. And it was really cool. And then he had this microphone, and he did this sucking noise, and he was like, and he sucked it all into his heart. And he destroyed it all. It was very cool. And me and Sherry going, what the? So right at the very, very center of the Christian faith is Tonglen. It's so cool. So cool. And then, you dedicate your death to destroying the suffering of other people. That's the most important part. And then it says the last line says, cherish the act. Cherish the act. That's an interesting line. So the act here, the act means the actions of a Buddha. So cherish the actions of a Buddha. But what it means in this case is, if you can, lie down on your right side like the Buddha did. It's called the lion posture, and die properly. In other words, chilled out, right? Just lie down on your right side, and you're doing all these things and wishing all these things and taking on all the suffering of all living beings, and you just put your hand there, and you just like peacefully go. No, there's no screaming and wailing and desperate cries for life, right? You just die peacefully. That's what cherish the act means. Why don't we have schools? I mean, I guess we do have schools, but they're not mainstream. Like how to die properly. It's the one thing that's got to happen. Why don't we learn how to do that? We're in denial, Yulia says. I think Yulia might be correct about being in denial. Yeah, it's not easy to put your mind there. It's not easy to think that it's too unbelievable. It's too hard to believe it that there's nothing, there's no universal law that says that I won't die in my sleep tonight. I have no idea. So one of the famous things, as Geshe Chikawa himself was dying, that was to them, was proof to everyone that he was like the ultimate Lojong practitioner, was as he was dying, he was kind of like screaming, going, no, no. And they're like, why are you screaming, Geshe Chikawa? He goes, I'm trying to go to hell, to save all beings in hell, but I just keep seeing enlightened beings everywhere. It's not working, it's not working. So they recorded that. He's famous for saying that. Like he couldn't he was forced into seeing enlightened beings. His love for beings was so strong, and his wish to help beings was so strong, and that he practiced that way his whole life so strongly that it was impossible for him to actually even go into hell or a hellish realm. He could only see Buddhas in Buddha paradise, and then he died. So that's a nice poa practice. He definitely directed his mind as the fruit of his lifetime practice.
John, I'm just thinking that, the reason why we don't, it's so unheard of to think of death, it's so subversive. It's so
What does subversive mean?
To have the thought of death in our mind. It's subversive to our society.
What does subversive mean?
Undermining.
Undermining.
Going contrary, undermining, defeating the general ethos, the ideas, the compelling ideas and rationale. It does. It cuts all our lives, our lifestyle, what we base them on. It cuts it off at the
Right.
knees.
So are you saying then that if people thought about their deaths more, that they would live differently?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they would not be having the same ideals and the same objectives,
Probably not. Yeah.
the same behaviors.
Probably not.
So there's a lot of investment in not thinking about that.
Yeah. That's a good point. Sure. Yeah. So we just finished part 4 of the 7-step practice for developing the good heart. Wow. Now we're going to do part 5, which is the point at which one can say they have developed the good heart. How do I know I got it? How do I know that I have developed? How do I know that my Lojong is happening? Where's the verse? All Dharma comes down to a single point. This is very, very cool. Okay? If your Lojong is happening and it's happening in your mind, then you know that every single thing the Buddha ever taught was all about getting rid of your self-cherishing. It all comes down to that. So that's what it means when, that's how you know. That's one of the ways you know, is that all Dharma comes down to a single point. And it makes sense to you. Like it's not this intellectual thing. It's like, yeah, wow, it really, that's it. That's all it's about. That's all it's about. What else could it be about? And it's clear to you. Then it's like your Lojong is working. The next line says, there are 2 judges, keep the main one. There are 2 judges, keep the main one. So that means there are only 2 witnesses, 2 judges to your practice, you and other people. So hopefully, so the other people that would judge your practice, hopefully you don't start practicing Buddhism and then 4 years later, everyone hates you more. It would be like you're doing something wrong, okay? Something's gone wrong in your practice. So that would be but if you're, practicing well, you'll hear this over and over again. I know I've experienced it. All of a sudden, relationships are mended. Suddenly, people that were behaving maybe with some ill will towards you are suddenly being very nice to you. Maybe people that were very against your path suddenly are very excited about your path, and they're like, "Yeah, that's cool." Or somehow you relate suddenly. These kinds of things happen. Do you want to say something on that? No. But he's saying, that's okay, but the main judge is yourself. You're the one that knows. if your Lojong practice is working. You're the only one that really knows if you're feeling happier than you did 2 years ago. Because it may be the case, it may be the case that outwardly you don't seem happier, but you know that you are on a general sense, because on a general sense, of course, there's going to be highs and lows until those level out, and people may see you being more emotional, but inside you'll know that on a general level, you have a more general happiness. You'll feel like you have less affliction about things that used to bother you before. And so you'll be the one that notices that. Something will happen like, an example, like maybe you've got a project at home and you're doing the project, and then someone comes in and wants to take over or criticizes your work, and you know that 2 years before that would have really bothered you, but now you feel like a breath there, like, wow, like it doesn't even bother me. I don't even care. Like, I don't care. I know for me, I can say personally that the greatest relief of my life was when, not of my life, one of the things that I noticed the most was when I stopped being concerned about what people were thinking about the music that I was playing. I mean, can you imagine the freedom of being so concerned whether people like the sound of your voice and the sound of your guitar playing and the songs that you write? Can you imagine like being so concerned about that and then suddenly not concerned? The freedom of just being able to play and not worry, it's like night and day. And that's, you're playing the same songs, it's just from a different place. And I know that's because of the Dharma. I'm not a better player. I'm worse, actually. I'm worse than I was before. I'm having way more fun doing it, yeah, I'm definitely worse. But so yeah, keep the main one means don't worry about what anybody thinks. Don't worry about what anybody says. You know whether your practice is working or not. It's very cool, this practice, because it's a deep, hidden practice. People don't know that you're doing it. They shouldn't know that you're doing it, but your world should be changing. As you go to work, right? As I gaze at my coworkers at work, they don't know the secret wishes I have for them in my heart. You're with your coworkers and maybe they're struggling with their lives and they're doing all these things, and who knows what they think about their life or what they think about me. But I don't think that they know my love for them and what I wish for them. And that's like a secret. But see, you keep that to yourself, Like, or an example is like, that doesn't happen anymore, but like years ago, like as one coworker gossips about me, and then I find out, and then the other coworkers don't understand why I'm not angry. They don't understand why I'm not angry. Why aren't I retaliating? Why aren't I, and they don't know. They don't know that I'm viewing my so-called enemy as a wish-fulfilling jewel. They don't know that. What am I going to do? Explain it to them? Oh yes. No. So it's you would only explain it to them if they took you aside and said, Johnny, I just don't get it. I don't get it. How does that not bother you? I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And then you're like, then maybe you could maybe teach the Dharma a little bit. Or not. Maybe you're just going to say, I don't know. Don't matter to me none. Right? Who knows? But you'd feel it out, you know. And if they really press the issue, then you could say, well, I'll tell you why. Because, like, a great example of, like, Lojong is, like, one of the ones I remember the most at work was Chris, who was his job, we were doing his job, and he went to the store and bought Gatorades for everybody, but he missed the one guy. He missed the one. He didn't bring enough for everybody, and he was in front of me, and he says, "Oh my God, I didn't bring enough for everybody." And I said, "Just give mine to him." And he's like, "What?" I said, "Just give mine to him." He goes, "Okay, well, okay, are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely sure." I said, "You know, how am I gonna ever? You know, it's better for me. No, it's not. It's much better for me. I'll be happier knowing he has it." That's all I said. I'll be happier. You know, I won't be thirsty or something. I won't if I know he has it. And then he said, "Okay, I'll tell him that you gave your." I said, "No, don't do that. Don't make him feel bad for getting mine. Just don't say anything. It's much better for me if he doesn't know." And that he just went, "Whoa, dude," and he just was like that, right? So that's a lojong right there. That's a lojong, right? And if you do that enough on a daily basis, death, no problem. Because you're just accustomed to always thinking that. You would never in your wildest dreams drink a Gatorade and watch someone else not get one. You just wouldn't do it. It's so far from like the reality of what you could do that it's just, you don't even, that's just your normal behavior, you know? Yeah. So only you know, and that's the one that counts, that you know. You know? And you just steady by steady, you know. Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't get rid of like 84,000 mental afflictions in 1 year. You just, day by day, they'll go. The next line says, "Be joy alone in an unbroken stream." So this is very, this is a very good key to Lojong. In other words, the karma doesn't work immediately. There's a time gap. So that means, like, if things are going well, don't get too happy. In other words, don't get too happy in an ungrounded kind of a way, where you think you're, you know, oh, good, this is great now, this is great, right? And if things are going bad, don't get too sad, because you understand the causes of things. Because what is happening to you now, if it's crappy, is not connected to your practice. If things that are happening to you now that you see as crappy, they're from your crap from before. They're not from all the good stuff you've been doing since you started practicing. It's like so many people, and you get this when you become teachers. You'll get this if you're not already getting this. People will come to you and ask you questions, and a lot of the questions will be related to worldly results, right? So it's like because somehow so many people think that their spiritual path is somehow reflected in worldly accomplishments or failures. That somehow their current spiritual practice is somehow reflected in their worldly accomplishments or failures, and that's just ridiculous. Those are two different things. It most likely the side effect of your spiritual practice will be that you do see pleasant things, and pleasant things do happen. But things that come in the world that most people would think, okay, yeah, that's good, that's success, they're transient. They don't last. They can't last. It's your spiritual mind that is going to last. It's your spiritual mind, your spiritual real estate that will carry on. So, if we continue to equate our spiritual result with what we may or may not see as being success or failure in the people around us or the world, what the world is offering, who cares? You're not about the world anymore. You're not about making the cycle of pain prettier. So that's keep your, what was it? Be joy alone in unbroken stream. So that just basically means know where things come from and hold the line. Just be quietly, joyfully doing your lojong. Quietly, joyfully, day by day, doing your spiritual practice, and it will work out. So you learn to disconnect. What you may think as a negative worldly thing from what you think is your spiritual success. The last line says, it's there when you keep it unthinking. It's there when you can keep it unthinking. So this is like how you know, right, that your lojong is happening. And that means you're not thinking about it anymore. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's just automatic, right? It's like, it's cool. Here's a cool example in the text. Like someone who's learning to ride a horse. So when someone's first learning to ride a horse, if something distracts them, or if they're so distracted, they're not at ease, they don't have practiced ease. If the horse does something weird, they just fall off the horse. But someone who is very good at riding a horse, they just move with the horse. It's just totally natural. They can be talking to you, looking at things, and riding along, and it's whatever the horse does, they're just move with the horse, It's like anything, like I remember learning to drum, for instance. And my teacher, I remember this, especially this one song I wanted to learn. And I was like, yeah, this is a really cool drummer. Can we learn this song? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll teach you this song. So we play it over the iPod at the class. He's like, oh yeah, he's doing this reggae beat thing, okay. So he shows me the reggae beat, right? And so I'm doing the reggae beat, and it's taking all my concentration, It's taking everything I got to just try and do this thing, and it's quite mechanical, And I don't know why I thought, yeah, I'll do a drum fill too, right? And I just try and do this drum fill, and he just says, "Don't do any fills," and he's trying to hold me, right? And it's like, you're not ready yet, right? You're not ready yet, And then so for the sake of all beings, I don't do any fills, right? For the sake of the band, I don't do any fills. I can do some now. I can do some. It's been maybe 4 years. I don't know. How long have I been doing drums now? 4 or 5 years. And now I can honestly say I can go keep on going, right? And it's like easy, and I can be smiling and looking around and playing. But before, forget it. If I try to fill, it would be like a train wreck for the whole band, right? So it's like that. It's like you've got your lojong when you don't fall off the horse. You don't ruin the band with a crappy drum fill. Someone calls you a name, and you don't lose your joy. You don't lose your compassion. You don't ruin the moment. You just like, all right. And you have compassion for this person, this angry person. So that's how you know, right? When the reaction time, right? When the reaction time between, I heard this the other day. I heard this about somebody, and I remember this. I remember getting mad at this too. You're walking down the street, and then someone is smoking outside, and they're just like smoking away, and they're like, it's like right into your face, right? So I've seen people really fly at the handle about that. I've seen people fly at the handle. I've seen the smoker be oblivious to it. And I've seen entire conversations happen. Like you're watching the sideline. These two people are talking about the smoker. The smoker's like just enjoying his cigarette. And, so you're doing well with your lojong. If that happens to you and it's unpleasant, and your reaction time is like 0, as in catching your anger, the lag time. So if 5 minutes later you went, oh my God, I just like got so mad at that person and actually yelled at them. If 5 minutes later you realize that, then your lojong is not so good. You got to tighten up. You got to tighten up the harness a bit. But if it's like pretty quick and you're like, oh that, and you go, oh yeah, and just calm right down. And you're like, oh yeah, this negative thing is a karmic result. I might have enjoyed that. There's nothing in this as I couldn't enjoy that. If I was like a tantric deity, it would just be more bliss. Just like, great. Right? If you don't enjoy it, that's not their fault. So it's like you're narrowing the gap. So when the gap gets really, 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 and then there's nothing, you're like just not angry, One time I was walking down Granville Street and someone flicked a cigarette butt right in my face. But I didn't. That was just too funny for me to get angry. But so that's a bad example. I just remembered, and I think it was an accident. I don't really know. Did it?
I found it
You find it funny, right?
It fell on her chest and she kept bouncing and all I could do was laugh.
A hot
Pretty bad.
Cigarette butt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
very nice, but I couldn't stop laughing.
It is humorous, if you think about it. Like what did I think Black Elk said? He's a shaman. Said you're gonna laugh later. You might as well laugh now. Not everything, but things like that, right? Things like that. So they're trying to help us train our minds so that we're not. Our lojong handles everything, positive or negative. Like we're not like, like what's an example? Like this could easily happen. It's probably happened to people in this room. A scenario like this, right? Maybe you have your car at the mechanic, and the mechanic phones you and says, "No, you phone, is my car ready?" And they say, "Oh yeah, it's ready." And you say, "Well, how much is it going to be?" He goes, "Oh yeah, it's going to be $80." And you're like, "Oh great, what a relief! I got fixed for $80." And you go down there, and you're like, "Oh great, whew, wow, I got more money than I thought I had, right? I'm happy for a minute." And you get down there, and then you get the bill, and it's like $1,000. Like, well, I thought you said, "Oh no, oh you're John. Oh sorry, oh man, I read you the wrong bill. It's actually $1,000." Right? And then, if your lojong is happening, that does not ruffle your feathers. You're like, okay, cool, man. Here's $1,000. Here's $1,000 offering, my friend. Please keep helping people. Right? I drove my car this morning to a mechanic, and I just looked at that place and thought, wow, like they fix cars all day, every day, and we need them to fix our cars. Our cars need to be fixed, and they're there every morning at 9 a.m., 9 to 5, every single day. They're there fixing people's cars. You know, it's like the people in the ferry lineup every day. If you want to go to the ferry, and you're like, oh my God, I got to get to the first ferry at 6:30. Well, guess what time they're there? Every single day. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing what people do in this world to help others. Especially if you get your head around the fact that money can't ultimately come from work. I mean, working might be the way that money appears. It may be the avenue, but if money came from work, you'd always get money from work. And if money came from work alone, people that didn't work would never get money. So there's something else going on. So these people that show up every single day so that you can, you know, on a whim, just happen to walk in there. They're there ready for you. It's good to think about these things. I think it's class. Yeah, you're gonna stop. So we finished 5 of them, and anyway, we were going to do 6 next class anyway. So on the next class we'll do 7, which is pretty short, and so we'll finish the 7 next class. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sashi
Ruki Jugshing Me To Tram Ri Rabling Shi Mien Degen Padi Sange Shindu Mi Te Uwa Gidro Kunam Shing Ma Chu Pasho Idam Guru Ratnam Dike Wokum Sunam Yeshe Zog Zog Shin Sunam Yeshe Wei Jun Wei Dampa Kuni Topasho. Thank you, everybody. Oh, one more thing I wanted to address, which Yulia was going to ask, which I didn't didn't address. Yulia said, what was your question?
The difference between self-compassion, self-love, and self-cherishing.
Right. So, right. Self-cherishing doesn't mean, like, getting over self-cherishing does not mean that you don't take care of yourself. That, you must take care of yourself. Because there's actually, we get into it next class, but it's some of the people, when they receive these lojongs, they thought, okay, great, I'm this crazy yogi now. I don't have to worry. Lojong is my protection. In fact, I'm not going to eat for a week, or I'm going to sleep outside for a week because Lojong is my protection. And Geshe Chikawa would say, forget that. That's a dumb idea. In fact, if you want to see emptiness directly, you need to be comfortable. You need to be able to meditate. You need to have a healthy body. You need to be in an environment where it's safe to meditate. You need to take care of yourself, right? So self-cherishing just means cherishing yourself over others. In other words, my needs always come first in an unhealthy way, because of course you're not going to be much use to anyone if you're a mess, right? If you're not getting the sleep that you need to get, and if you're not eating properly, and if you crowd your life with too many things to do, you're not going to be much use to other people. You won't be. So this is mainly things like it would be self-cherishing if you, like an example of self-cherishing would be like an example that some of you already know. Me and Mishi were looking for a house, and we wanted to rent a different place. Our apartment was too small. Marge sent us a number of a person who was renting out a house. So we phone them. Okay, we're gonna go check this place out. We make an appointment. We show up. We park in front. We look, and what we see is a young couple with a family, a kid, ahead of us. So self-cherishing would be this. Oh, damn. Okay, how will we lie on our resume in order to make our resume look so much better than theirs that we get the place and they don't? That's self-cherishing. The opposite of self-cherishing, what we did, which is went, oh, okay, well, let's make sure that, they get it. And we just left. We didn't even put in a resume. And shortly after that, we got this place. But it's those kinds of things that we, and if our lojong had been slack, we would have had a moment of like wondering what to do. You see, we would have went, it's probably not good. What did the Lama say, right? Maybe it's not so good to try and get this place. And it takes 4 or 5 minutes, and you go, okay. Based on logic and based on my intellectual understanding, I'm going to drive away, right? But if your lojong's happy, he's just like, oh, it's a no-brainer. Just keep on going. You don't even stop the car. Like that, right? So that's self-cherishing versus the self-cherishing like, I'm going to go to bed early tonight so that I'm fresh tomorrow for work. I'm going to drink lots of water today, and I have some mental things bothering me. I'm going to talk to somebody about it, get my mind clear, things like that. That's like someone might label that self-cherishing and not understand when we say self-cherishing that it means the negative kind of self-cherishing.
It's self-care, right?
Self-care, sure, yeah. Because cherishing is I was saying to you earlier, could have positive, like, I cherish you. Could also mean, I love you. I hold you. You're dear to me. So basically what they're saying is, I'm dearer to myself than to anyone, right? I'm more important to me, and everything that I want is like at first, before anyone gets anything. Not lending somebody some money because you don't want to be that close to zero or something. Right? You got $100 and you don't, no, I can't lend you 10. I'm not going below 100. Like those kinds of ideas. Anyways, that's class.